The fluorescent lights hummed their familiar tune as Marcus Chun pushed his cart through the grand foyer of Harmony Concert Hall. At 38, his movements held the quiet efficiency of someone who had learned to find dignity in invisible work. Each night for 3 years, he had walked these marble floors, dusted these gilded fixtures, and cleaned around the dreams of others. Tonight felt different somehow. Marcus paused before the towering oil paintings of legendary composers, their painted eyes seeming to follow his methodical progress. Before we dive into Marcus's story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you've seen hidden talents in unexpected places where you're from. The main performance hall stretched before him like a cathedral of sound. Marcus entered with reverence, his footsteps muffled by plush red carpet. Row upon row of empty seats faced the stage where tomorrow night's orchestra would perform. He had listened to countless rehearsals from the shadows, his trained ear catching every missed note, every imperfect harmony that the audience would never notice. His cleaning supplies clinked softly as he approached the stage. A forgotten music stand caught his attention, its metal surface dulled by countless performances. Marcus adjusted it with practiced precision, the same way he once positioned his own stand as first chair violin. That life seemed like another person's memory now. In the storage room behind the stage, something glinted in the dim light. Tucked between dusty stage props and forgotten programs sat a violin case, its leather worn and cracked with age. Marcus stared at the violin case, his hands trembling slightly as memories flooded back. 12 years ago, he had been Marcus Chun, first-chair violinist for the Metropolitan Chamber Orchestra. The stage lights had illuminated his fingers as they danced across the strings, each note pure and precise. Critics had called him promising, destined for greatness. Then came the accident. A simple slip on icy steps had shattered more than just his left wrist. The surgery had saved his hand, but stolen his precision. The microscopic tremor that remained was invisible to most, but deadly to a professional musician. His career had crumbled like autumn leaves. Marcus opened the case with careful fingers. Inside lay a violin, its varnish clouded with age and neglect. Several strings had snapped, and the bridge sat askew. Yet beneath the damage, he recognized quality craftsmanship. Someone had loved this instrument once. His phone buzzed with a text from his babysitter. Lily was asleep, homework finished, violin practice complete. His 80-year-old daughter had no idea her father had once commanded audiences with the same instrument she struggled to master. He had sold his prized Guarneri violin 5 years ago when Lily needed emergency surgery. The money had saved her life, but it felt like burying his soul. Marcus closed the case gently. Some dreams were meant to stay buried. He had responsibilities now, bills to pay, a daughter to raise. The violin would have to wait until tomorrow's cleaning shift to reveal its secrets. Elena Vasquez swept into the concert hall like a force of nature, her heels clicking against the marble with authority. As the New York Times chief music critic, she wielded her pen like a conductor's baton, capable of launching careers or destroying them with a single review. Tonight, she had returned to retrieve her forgotten notebook before tomorrow's performance. Marcus looked up from polishing the brass railings, offering a polite nod. Elena barely registered his presence, her mind already composing harsh critiques of the evening's rehearsal. The second violins had been sloppy, the cellos lacked passion, and the conductor seemed more concerned with showmanship than substance. She paused near the stage, speaking into her phone with practiced disdain. "The orchestra is competent at best," she declared to her editor. They rushed through Brahms like they had somewhere better to be. The violin section particularly disappointed me. No soul, no understanding of the composer's intentions. Marcus continued his work, but his trained ear had caught every flaw she mentioned. The second movement had indeed dragged, and the violinist had missed several crucial dynamic shifts. He remembered performing that same piece years ago, feeling every note resonate through his bones. Elena retrieved her notebook from the front row, glancing dismissively at Marcus as he cleaned around the stage. just another invisible worker maintaining the temple of high culture. She had no idea that the man pushing the mop cart had once commanded standing ovations in venues far grander than this one. The next evening, Marcus found himself drawn back to the storage room. The violin case sat exactly where he had left it, waiting like an old friend. He lifted the instrument carefully, his fingers automatically checking the wood for cracks and damage. Despite years of neglect, the craftsmanship was remarkable. German-made, probably early 1900s, with flame maple that caught the dim light beautifully. During his dinner break, Marcus began gentle repairs. He had learned basic instrument maintenance during his performing days, watching master luthiers work their magic. The broken strings were easy to replace. The bridge required delicate adjustment, each millimeter affecting the sound quality. His hands moved with muscle memory he thought he had lost. Elena appeared in the doorway, startling him. She observed his careful work with curious detachment. "Fixing instruments, too," she commented, assuming he was just another maintenance worker expanding his duties. "The hall probably pays you extra for that." Marcus nodded non-committally, not trusting himself to speak. Elena stepped closer, examining the violin with surprising knowledge. "This is actually quite nice," she mused. "Shame to see it sitting unused. Some patron probably donated it and forgot about it. These old instruments need to be played, not stored." She watched Marcus adjust the tuning pegs with precise movements that seemed almost professional. There was something different about the way he handled the violin, a reverence that went beyond simple repair work. But Elena dismissed the thought. After all, he was just a janitor. 2 a.m. arrived with the weight of silence that only empty concert halls possess. Marcus had finished his rounds, checked every door, dimmed every light. The building breathed around him in the darkness, waiting. In his hands, the restored violin felt alive, its strings properly tensioned, its voice ready to sing again. He stood alone on the stage where tomorrow's performers would claim their spotlight. The ghost of his former self whispered encouragement as he raised the bow. The first notes emerged tentatively, rusty from years of silence. His left hand trembled slightly, the old injury making itself known. But as the melody found its rhythm, muscle memory took over. Bach's partita in D minor flowed from his fingers like water, finding its course. The complex passages that had once defined his reputation returned piece by piece. Each phrase built upon the last, transforming him from janitor to artist, from forgotten to magnificent. The hall's acoustics embraced every note, amplifying his emotions into something transcendent. Tears traced down his cheeks as he lost himself in Brahms, then Vivaldi, then pieces he had written himself years ago. The violin sang with the voice of his buried dreams, each melody a prayer for what might have been. His injured hand moved with growing confidence, the tremor fading as passion overtook fear. Marcus played until his fingers ached and his heart felt lighter than it had in years. The empty seats bore witness to his resurrection, the shadows holding secrets that morning would never know. Elena had returned for her forgotten reading glasses, expecting nothing more than a quick retrieval from the empty hall. But as she pushed through the heavy doors, extraordinary music stopped her cold. Someone was playing Brahms' Violin Concerto with breathtaking precision and soul, each note perfectly placed yet flowing with natural emotion. She crept through the shadows, her critical mind analyzing what she heard. This was not the mechanical perfection of a conservatory student or the adequate competence of tonight's orchestra. This was artistry at its highest level, raw and honest and magnificent. The musician understood every nuance Brahms had intended, every subtle dynamic that separated good players from great ones. Elena's breath caught as the figure on stage came into view. Marcus, the quiet janitor, stood transformed in the dim stage lighting. His eyes were closed, his body swaying with the music as if the violin was singing directly from his soul. The technical passages that had defeated tonight's professional first violin flowed from his fingers effortlessly. Her assumptions crumbled like ancient paper. This was not possible. Janitors did not play like this. Working men did not possess this level of artistry. Yet the evidence sang before her eyes, undeniable and beautiful and shocking. Elena pressed herself against the wall, afraid to breathe, afraid to disturb whatever miracle she was witnessing. The final notes hung in the air like a prayer, and Elena realized she was crying. In 30 years of music criticism, she had rarely heard anything so perfect. A dropped program rustled in Elena's trembling hands, the sound echoing through the silent hall like thunder. Marcus froze mid-bow, his eyes snapping open to find her silhouette in the shadows. The violin slipped slightly in his grip as embarrassment flooded his face. "I'm sorry," he stammered, lowering the instrument quickly. "I know I shouldn't be up here. I'll put everything back." Elena stepped into the light, her composure shattered by what she had witnessed. "That was Brahms' Violin Concerto," she whispered. "You played it flawlessly. Where did you learn to play like that?" Marcus set the violin carefully in its case, his hands shaking. "It doesn't matter," he said quietly. "I should get back to work." But Elena moved closer, her critic's instincts overriding social convention. "You're not just some amateur," she insisted. "That level of technique, that musical understanding, who are you really?" The question hung between them like a bridge Marcus wasn't sure he wanted to cross. His shoulders sagged under the weight of years of hiding. "I used to be first chair violin for the Metropolitan Chamber Orchestra," he finally admitted. "Before the accident, before everything fell apart." Elena's eyes widened in recognition. "Marcus Chun," she breathed. "I reviewed your Tchaikovsky performance 8 years ago. You were extraordinary. What happened to you?" The dam broke, and Marcus found himself telling her everything. The injury, the tremor, the lost career, his daughter's medical bills that had cost him his prized violin. Elena paced the stage, her mind racing with possibilities. "Marcus," she said urgently, "the symphony is holding auditions next week for second violin. You could easily make first chair within months. What I just heard, it's extraordinary." Marcus shook his head, backing away from her enthusiasm. "You don't understand," he said, flexing his left hand unconsciously. "The tremor is still there. Some days it's worse than others. I can't risk everything on a hand that might fail me." But Elena had seen something in his playing that transcended any physical limitation. The passion, the understanding, the pure musical intelligence that no injury could touch. "When you played tonight, there was no tremor," she insisted. "You were perfect." "I have Lily to think about," Marcus continued, his voice heavy with responsibility. "She's 8 years old and depends on me. I can't take chances with our security. This job provides health insurance, steady income. Music is a luxury I can't afford." Elena studied his face, seeing the war between hope and fear. "What if I could help you prepare?" she offered quietly. "I know the repertoire they'll want, the judges they'll choose. I could give you every advantage." Marcus looked at the violin case, then at Elena's earnest expression. For the first time in years, he felt the dangerous flutter of possibility in his chest. But possibility was a luxury for people who didn't have children counting on them for everything. "You really think I could do it?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Over the next week, Elena arrived each evening after the hall closed, carrying sheet music and determination. She had convinced Marcus to practice, though he approached each session with careful hope wrapped in protective skepticism. The old violin responded to his touch like it remembered being loved. They worked through Mozart's demanding passages, Elena offering insights from years of observing the world's finest musicians. "Your interpretation has matured," she told him as he navigated a particularly complex section. "There's wisdom in your playing now that wasn't there before." Marcus felt his confidence growing with each note. His left hand still trembled occasionally, but the music seemed to flow around the imperfection, finding new pathways to express itself. Some nights, he forgot about the injury entirely, lost in the pure joy of creation. At home, Lily noticed the change in her father. He hummed while making breakfast, his shoulders less burdened by invisible weight. When she practiced her own violin, He offered gentle corrections with the voice of someone who truly understood the instrument's secrets. "Daddy," she asked one evening, "why do you know so much about music?" Marcus knelt beside her, choosing his words carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups have dreams they put away for a while," he explained. "But dreams don't disappear. They just wait patiently until it's time to remember them again." The audition was in 3 days, and for the first time in years, Marcus allowed himself to believe in tomorrow's possibilities. The audition room felt smaller than Marcus remembered, filled with polished wood and expectant silence. 5 judges sat behind a long table, their expressions professionally neutral. Maestro Williams, the conductor who had once praised his performances, didn't recognize him in his worn suit jacket. Marcus stood center stage, the borrowed violin feeling both foreign and familiar in his hands. His left hand trembled slightly as he positioned his fingers, and for a terrifying moment, he wondered if Elena's faith had been misplaced. "Begin when you're ready," Maestro Williams instructed, not looking up from his notes. Marcus closed his eyes and found his center. The opening notes of Bach's Partita emerged clear and true, each phrase building upon the last with mathematical precision and emotional depth. As the music took hold, the tremor faded, replaced by the muscle memory of countless performances. The judges looked up from their papers, attention captured. Marcus transitioned seamlessly into the Mozart concerto they had requested, his interpretation both technically flawless and deeply personal. Years of struggle had added layers of meaning to every phrase, transforming technical exercise into profound expression. In the back row, Elena watched with tears in her eyes as Marcus reclaimed his rightful place in the musical world. The janitor had disappeared, replaced by the artist who had been hiding beneath years of necessity and fear. When the final note faded, the silence stretched long and meaningful before the judges exchanged knowing glances. Maestro Williams set down his pen and leaned forward, studying Marcus with new recognition. "Marcus Chun," he said slowly. "I thought I knew that name. You performed Tchaikovsky with us years ago. What happened to you?" Marcus straightened, meeting the conductor's gaze with quiet dignity. "Life happened, Maestro, but music never left me. It just waited patiently for the right moment to return." The judges conferred in hushed whispers while Marcus stood motionless, his future hanging in the balance. Finally, Maestro Williams smiled, the first genuine warmth Marcus had seen from him. "We'd like to offer you the position of second violin, with potential advancement based on performance. Your playing today reminded us why we fell in love with music in the first place." Elena burst into applause from the back row, her professional composure abandoned. The other judges looked startled, then joined in, recognizing the magnitude of what they had witnessed. A career resurrection, a talent reclaimed, a man restored to his rightful place. Marcus accepted their congratulations with tears in his eyes, thinking of Lily waiting at home, of the years of struggle that had led to this moment. The violin felt different in his hands now, no longer a relic of the past, but a key to the future. As he left the audition hall, Elena approached with a notebook in her hand. "This story deserves to be told," she said softly. "The world needs to know that extraordinary talent exists in the most unexpected places." 6 months later, Marcus stood in the wings of Harmony Concert Hall, no longer invisible, but preparing to command the stage. The orchestra tuned around him, welcoming him as the colleague he had always been meant to be. His section violin gleamed under the stage lights, but the old violin from storage remained his practice companion, a reminder of miraculous second chances. Lily sat in the front row wearing her best dress, her eyes shining with pride as she watched her father prepare for his solo debut. Elena's glowing review in the New York Times had launched Marcus back into the musical world with fanfare, but tonight was about something deeper than recognition. It was about dreams deferred but never abandoned. As Marcus stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause, he caught sight of his former cleaning cart in the wings, now pushed by another invisible worker who might harbor secret talents. He made a mental note to pay attention, to listen for extraordinary gifts hidden in plain sight. The first notes of Vivaldi's Four Seasons flowed from his violin like liquid gold, each phrase a celebration of resilience and hope. The tremor in his left hand had become part of his unique voice, adding subtle texture that critics now praised as deeply human and moving. If this story of hidden dreams and second chances touched your heart, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite part, or if you've witnessed similar hidden talents in someone you know. When the final note faded, Marcus smiled at Lily's beaming face, knowing that sometimes the most beautiful music comes from the most unexpected places.